All right, Roy, I appreciate you doing this with me today. Obviously, I'm with, a lender, and we do one-time closed construction loans. And during this whole process for me and my borrowers is, they want me to kind of guide them through the process. And I know a little bit about, home design, I guess you would say, enough that say I just refer them over. That's the extent of what I know, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You guys obviously do plans and whatnot for the borrowers, but questions as it pertains to that are plentiful, right? So first, I want to know kind of what is Tracy's Custom Home Designs? How'd you guys get started? How long you been in business? That kind of thing. So
Sure.
what do you got?
Yeah, so everybody asks who's Tracy and Tracy's Custom Home Designs, and it's my wife.
Okay.
So we started.
So she is the boss.
She is the boss. I will never deny that she's the boss. I say that she gets all the credit and I get all the blame.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started in 2006. We were
wow.
looking to build a house. We just couldn't really. Well, we were looking to buy a house. We couldn't find anything we wanted, so we ended up. I told her I was an engineer. Both of us were engineers. Are engineers, and anyway, so we could design our own house. And then I had a friend said he could build it. So we kind of created a company, and it was a woman-owned company, so that's why it's named Tracy's Custom Homes.
Yeah.
As well as the T looks better. The logo looks a lot better than if it was Roy's Custom Homes. So anyway, that's how it got started in
Really?
06, and we did a few kind of on the side.
But
as
you
a
guys
hobby.
built your own, though.
We did, yeah. We built our own subs. All the contractors liked our plans. So then we got asked, hey, can you design a friend's a house? And one thing led to another, and then we started expanding the business. In 2017, I think we hired our first full-time employee, and now we're up to 8 employees. So yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing, my man. So then my question really comes down to: did you learn a lot in your first house that you built, which was your own?
Yes.
As it pertains to subcontractors and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So my background's in engineering, but I bought architectural textbooks, read those probably more cover to cover than I ever did my engineering textbooks in college.
Yeah.
And then just, visiting with subcontractors, builders, just trying to gather as much information as I could.
Yeah.
And yeah, I probably learned more on the site building over the years than I did, reading the architectural textbooks.
Where'd you go to school?
Texas A&M.
Yeah, saw the ring. And it's all over the office, actually. I saw that a couple places, so that's pretty awesome. And it said that you are an honoree?
Yes. So we were in 2021. We were awarded one of the Aggie 100. So it's they recognize the top 100 fastest growing companies. And,
that's awesome. And you guys are here in Farmersville.
Yes.
So local. That's another plus too. Working with local companies to kind of make that happen. So as it pertains to home design, right? Because we have to always send somebody off to get plans done. So I do work with quite a few builders, Cody Clark being one of them, a really good guy. Mm-hmm. And he actually referred me over to you guys because he sends some customers your way. So my question is, and my borrowers' questions are, what is the process as it pertains to custom home design and sending it to you guys? What are you guys looking for as it pertains to information? Is it a budget that you're working within? Is it, location? Like, what really dictates how these plans are going to go? I mean, heck, how do you know if I want a $500,000 house, how do you, whittle it down to this design? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very tough and complicated question. And if you ask builders, they get it asked all the time, like, how much is a house going to cost? How much is it per dollar per square foot?
Yeah.
And it's really, really tough. And so there was builders before COVID and material supplies and all the issues. There were builders out there that were like, hey, I'll build you anything for $85 a foot, or I'll build you anything for $100 a foot. Like, in the design world, like, we can design a house that a builder would be like, no, I'm not touching that one for $100 a foot. So it's really, really complicated. And unfortunately, there's not a quick and easy answer to answer that question. So we get clients that'll come in and we design all different styles of homes, and a lot of times they've obviously worked with a builder like Cody Clark.
Yeah.
And they're coming in, so they kind of have a budget, and the builder has said, hey, we can build it for X number of dollars a square foot. And if we know that, based on my experience in building as well, then we can kind of steer our clients in that direction. But it's really, really hard. So the more complicated the home, the more windows we add,
So adding windows makes it more complex?
Yes, and more cost. So glass is more expensive than traditional materials. But But all of that leads to a much higher end. And probably, you know, every homeowner, they have their own specialty, whether they're in finance or they're a teacher or they're in sales. But home design and home building is typically not their specialty.
Yeah.
So they've collected, you know, Pinterest photos, and they bring those books in, and you know, here's all the ideas, and they want the dog bath to look like this one, and they want the laundry room to look like this one, and the kitchen to look like this one, and those are all great if they don't have a really tight budget. But many times we have to tell our, you know, the potential homeowners that those photos that you gathered, the reason they look so good, or the reason they look like $1 million, is because they're probably close to $1 million.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if we start to put all those features in every room, typically we're going to, you know, get outside of somebody's budget.
So you'll go as far as like figuring out what type of product goes in the home, like, you know, as it pertains to lumber or marble or, you know, countertops or whatever it may be?
We don't get into detailed specifications like as far as it's going to be Carrara marble or it's going to be this type of quartz. We're able to show all those things, you know, we do 3D renderings.
Nice, yeah.
But when it gets down to actual, there's such a range, and that's where the houses, you know, if say this house costs $150 a foot or this one costs $300 a foot, and it's the same square footage, people ask, well, what's the difference? And there's really not like structural changes or structural differences. It's really materials. So you can buy granite for, you know, $35 to $40 a square foot for your kitchen countertops, and you can get high-end quartz for $85 to $90 a square foot, and then you can also get some exotic granites that are well over $100 a square foot. But choosing those materials, you know, makes that price.
Now you can design a house with the anticipation down the road that they're going to change things up and add things or what have you. So they could have this more grand idea, but on a budget, and design the house with making those upgrades later, right? You guys can take those into account?
We can. I mean, and like using gable end walls allows for extending a room out. So if a family has say they need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house now for budget, but they plan on expanding the family and want to add on, you know, a guest suite or another kid's room, sometimes we can, you know, leave the end wall maybe with a gable, put a bathroom or something in where we could turn that into a hallway in the future, and then we can expand.
So you guys can really plan for the future easily.
Sometimes. I mean, it depends on the house.
If they wanted it to, right? If they come to you with that special request, you guys can obviously design it in there. I don't think a lot of people think about that. They think about what I need now, and they don't think about the future. And that's the biggest thing I think why people move is they're like, oh, I need more room or I need this. But if you build a custom home and you have it designed properly, you guys could literally just keep building onto what you have and really not move.
True.
I mean, that would be ideal.
And a lot of times we can put a staircase, you know, in a situation, whether it be attic stairs for now, but a lot of these attics, especially in Texas, everything has to be big. And before, I mean, the steeper the pitch, the higher the roof, like that was the go-to thing in design. And you walk into some of these homes and there's 20 feet in the attic when you get upstairs, you know, above the ceiling joist. And great places to build out, you know, if you need to add a room. But we do remodels, so we go out to people's houses and take a look at what they have.
Do you really? I didn't know that. Okay, so you guys will actually do a remodel completely. Okay, now, as it pertains to, you know, let's say like for my house, for example, I was thinking about converting some of the attic space into living quarters. Structurally wise, do you guys have to come out there? Do you guys have a structural engineer on staff to help with that, or do you need original plans, or like how do you go about that and figuring out what you can do?
Sure. So I'm a licensed professional engineer. So most of the time, if it's going to get into that, I'll go out and take a look at it. If it's in our wheelhouse, then we'll take care of it. If not, then we do have other engineers that we'll outsource to.
Okay. So I get a freebie on this one?
Yeah.
I'm joking. I'm just joking.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, if you're going to build out, typically it ends up over the garage because garages are big, and so there's not a lot of AC ductwork and wiring and all that's already over the garage. So those are great places to build. You know, for future space. But a lot of times, you know, it requires replacing those ceiling joists or going back in or sistering in another joist to make it stronger to put a floor over it.
Okay. What is, in your opinion, some really common features that are being put in houses now, and what do you see as up and coming, like changes and updates? I think outdoor, obviously, living spaces is super popular now, but what do you see? Like going on?
I mean, so there's been a big shift, obviously, in the housing market. So I've been in business 17 years. We've seen a lot of different design changes. Modern farmhouses have controlled the market for the last 5-6 years. I don't know that they're necessarily on the way out, but I think people are getting, they want a different style or a different iteration of that.
Yeah.
So for exterior wise, we're going away from the painted white brick houses with, black trim and black windows. We're seeing a lot more color. We attend the National Home Builder Show every year, our whole design staff, and so we get a lot of what's the latest trends, products, and updates there. But I think like freestanding tubs have been in for about the last, 5 to 8 years. But I think we're getting more and more clients who are coming back in, especially if they're, say, close to retirement or in their 50s, 60s. They're coming back in and saying, hey, these tubs are hard to get in and out. There's no place to put the soap, the loofah, all that stuff.
They look good, though.
They look
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
They're kind of hard to clean around.
Yeah.
A lot of times designers will push them like right up into a corner and not leave any space around the tub. And then they forget about that, hey, there's dirt and dust and socks are going to get stuck behind there. And there's a hard time to go get that stuff.
Sounds like you are speaking from experience.
Yeah. So we're seeing a shift
Okay.
going away from freestanding tubs, more back to drop-in decks, especially if people are going to use the tub.
Yeah.
And then that goes to another thing. We're doing a lot of masters without tubs because the trend is, real estate market says, hey, young kids take baths. And so if we can put a tub shower combo in one of the bedrooms or bathrooms or guest bathroom, then, we can open up the master bath a lot, put a nicer shower in, and get rid of the tub. So, that's one big trend. I've been kind of on a push that I think the dining table is going to go away.
Yeah.
So we used to have formal dining rooms, and then we'd have breakfast nooks. We pretty much have gotten rid of the formal dining room unless somebody has, antique piece of furniture, or they host a lot of dinner parties and they need a big place for that. So we have a trend but a lot of people, we've done these large islands. So I think ultimately, I don't think there's going to be the need for the dining table. And we've incorporated some of the dining tables on the backside of an island. So you have an island to do all your prep work, but then the table comes right off of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of one of the things.
Well, I was talking to another industry partner on a podcast earlier in the year, and they were talking about blending the outdoor space and the kitchen space together to where you could just open up the area and you could just almost like a bar, like you see at restaurants, and that's starting to become a thing. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'm like, man, that was genius because really so many more people do spend time outside here in Texas, obviously.
Sure.
So, man, and so do you guys see a push for that now too?
We do, because if you watch HGTV or if...
Keep your wife off of that channel.
Yeah. If you, at the Builder Show, it's which is held in Vegas or in Orlando, but the Arizona, the California, the southern markets where HGTV spends a lot of time doing these things.
Yeah.
Those markets are great. The weather's perfect year-round.
Yeah.
Here in Texas, we do a lot, and we get a lot of requests for it because people see it. But as a builder, as a homeowner, I just don't see the functionality of it. I'd rather put in big glass windows where you can see the outside. But because of the weather, the humidity, the bugs, the dirt, dust, wind, all that stuff, the opportunity to really open up your house. We've spent so much time spray foaming our homes, putting in better windows to energy, save energy, conserve all of that, keep everything out, that I just think in this area.
It just doesn't work well.
It doesn't work
Unless
well.
you're going to host a lot of parties and that's your thing, then obviously do that.
Yeah, and maybe if you're in town, we primarily work in the rural areas, so we have a little bit more outdoor environments. But yeah, if you're in a city lot and things are a little tighter and you don't have as much maybe wind, debris, dirt, things like that, you can definitely open it up more.
Now, Cody was talking about, a few times now about foundations and what he does. Does the home design really heavily depend on what type of foundation somebody's putting in? Do you guys ever take that into consideration, or does that not anything in your wheelhouse when you're designing a home? That's just really up to the builder. Yeah,
we have two different types of foundations. So there's slabs, which predominantly controls this market. So that's, we're going to go out, pour concrete on the top of the ground, and then build a house on top. And those all have to be, they should be engineered, stamped by a foundation engineering company.
Yeah.
So we don't do those internally. So we'll take the drawings once we're finished with the design. We take the footprint, the walls, and we'll send it off. And then a foundation engineer that specializes in that and knows the soil types, they will design something specific. And the other type is a traditional crawl space, which we don't see a lot of in this area.
Yeah.
But that would be where, the house is elevated and you can actually access.
So why don't you see those in this area, really?
Because of price. So
okay.
Concrete in this region, which is different than anywhere else in the United States, concrete's a little less expensive. The labor to do the concrete work is a little less expensive, and so slab on grade is actually cheaper. If you go into the Northwest or in those areas, a lot of times slab on grade would be a higher end home, or would be more expensive.
Okay.
But crawl spaces here, we have to frame out. You're buying all the lumber for the subfloor, and then obviously you're building the house on top of that, and the labor for the framing and just the material cost is more than what we can do concrete.
Now, I noticed that like tornado shelters or storm shelters are a thing. Do you guys incorporate those into designs, and do you guys do them in concrete, or do you guys just do the steel, or what goes into that?
Yeah, probably I'd say we ran some numbers not too long ago, but about 70% of the homes we design have a storm shelter.
Yeah.
The steel shelters are the most economical, and they're rated for an F5 tornado. We work with storm dorms in Garland a lot, Jeff Wingfield down there.
Okay.
But they build the box, and you can probably go up to, I don't know, an 8x8, 8x10 with a steel 1/4-inch shell, and they come out and bolt it to the slab. And then we build walls around it and put an actual, regular door on it. So the safe room door will always stay swung in. And then we can put a regular panel door on the outside in the wall that will swing out. And so if you're walking down a hallway, it would just look like a door.
Okay.
The other options are to go to CMU block or full concrete with concrete ceiling. And those typically we will recommend that option when we get to 10x10 or bigger.
Okay.
So some people... It's Texas, so we have a lot of gun safes.
Yeah.
But tornadoes are a huge thing.
Yeah.
And So
now, how do you guys do it when it's a gun safe type thing, and there needs to be fire protection and all of that? Do you guys take that into consideration, or is that even a thing when you're building those type?
Well, I mean, so the storm dorms with the 1/4-inch steel plate and has a steel door.
Yeah.
And then usually we're going to have a sheetrock wall on the outside. So typically those are rated up to an hour, and then a lot of times people put a gun, like maybe a higher hour, 90-minute, 2-hour gun safe inside their storm shelter.
Yeah.
But when we go to the CMU block, I mean, that's pretty safe.
Yeah. Okay.
From a fire standpoint.
If people don't think about that, they don't think about fire safety as it pertains to gun safes and things like that, and you really need to take that into consideration. It's tool resistant and fire resistant for a different amount of time, and people don't really know that. They just go buy a cheap gun safe from Walmart or wherever they buy it, and they're like, well, why did it melt down? Well, because it wasn't fire rated. That's what happens. So yeah, just curious that. So for you,
doors, back to that. I mean, we've done concrete rooms, and you have to buy a vault door, and there you can start at like $1,000 for a 60-minute door, and then if you want a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour, they go all the way up to, I think, I don't know, we've seen some 5- and 6-hour doors, but every time you go up an hour in fire rating, those doors get exponentially more expensive. So you can get up to a $12,000, $15,000 vault door to go into your gun safe if you need it. But
now for the design as it pertains to the electrical panels and all of that and low voltage wiring, do you guys handle that part of it as well, the design in that?
We do on the electrical side, but the low voltage, that changes so much. I personally am into all of that. I like the audio video, but it changes so much that there's people out there that have their whole service industry built around that, and they're up to date a lot more than we are. So we pretty much leave that out. As far as like TV wiring, we'll place on the walls where TVs need to go, so the electricians and audio video people know where we're talking about putting those types of devices, and we can account for it. But we don't actually do the low voltage wiring. But now, as far as electrical goes, we'll locate the panel, put all the lighting in. All of our designers have been to lighting classes. We do continuing education classes on lighting. So where's the best place for cans? What are the new dimmer switches? We just attended the Dallas Builders Association's 2023 NEC electrical code update, and learned about we can't put outlets on the side of an island anymore. They have to go on top.
I'm not gonna lie, I have one on the side island that thing trips all the time.
It trips from the GFCI.
Time. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But it does all the time. It never fails. It's absolutely infuriating.
Well, they just changed per the 2021 code that was implemented in September 1. You can't put outlets underneath the countertop, which goes on the side of the island. Yeah. So apparently crock pots were being plugged in on the side, and kids were walking by and pulling them off and burning them themselves. So now you have to do a pop-up in the top of the countertop.
Oh, that's a pop-up. I've never seen that actually.
Yeah, so they cut a hole. I mean, it's kind of like a conference room table.
Yeah.
If you ever been to one of those
Yeah.
where you push a button and the little outlets come up.
Yeah.
We just finished installing one in a house south of Princeton, which is pretty neat, but it's obviously additional expense versus cutting another hole in your granite or quartz countertop and then buying the unit that goes in there versus just putting an outlet.
I gotta check that phone real quick. I think
you're good.
That somebody called, and I don't know if it turned itself off. So let me just make sure. No, we're still recording.
You're
So make sure. I put it on Do Not Disturb, and you know how that stuff goes. I'm like, oh, here we go, electronics. You know what I'm saying? So
that's good.
For you, how do you get your business? Do you only handle like referrals coming from other people? Do you guys do any marketing? Like how do you get your business? How does it come through the door?
Yeah, traditionally up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, it was all referral based. So we were able to work with several builders in the area, and anytime they had a client that was looking to build a new home and didn't have a set of plans, they would send them to us. And I would still say that probably at that point it was like 95% of our business was referral, either a friend or a builder. Okay. Now we're probably in the, probably in the 80 to 85%. So it's still very high builder friend referral. Yeah. But we do have social media marketing. Okay. Sunny is our customer relations manager, and she helps
She's
assist.
amazing.
Yeah, she is absolutely amazing.
Great personality, very friendly, and that's what you need sitting at the front desk, honestly, is that. And people don't realize how important that aspect is, to have somebody bubbly and welcoming. I mean, you'll walk into some offices and you're like, I don't want to talk to that lady. Or she'll feel annoyed that you're there. Yeah. Not her. She is so bubbly.
Yeah, she's got the perfect disposition to be the person in charge of the company.
I mean, the company.
Yeah, she is.
You're intimidating, so you know.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's that I'm the face of the company, but really, they visit with Sunny more. She handles their phone calls, scheduling, billing, everything, all the hard things. Yeah. And she takes care of it all.
Yeah, you guys get reviews online. It's always with her.
It pretty much is. We will see a lot of reviews, and they're always complimenting.
Yeah, I have a processor. Her name is Emily, and it is absolutely crazy how often people are just in love with her. I mean, she I have a good process, I think, but she is the icing on the cake. She is literally probably one of the last people that my customers talk to, and they love her. They'll buy her gifts. They'll drive all the way to Flower Mound to give them to her. I have another LO on the team. His name is Hudson, and he did a closing, and the borrower bought him and her a boxing glove. But I mean, thank you for fighting for us, which was an amazing thing. But that's how much they love Emily. She is an amazing thing, and like I said, with Sunny you need that. You need that personality, that really welcoming person to kind of get through the process, because this process, building a home, is stressful, and you have to have awesome people on your team to make it happen. So a couple other questions I've noticed just in construction in North Texas is roof styles, right? So you have tile roofs, which are heavy, so you have to design around that. You need to know that beforehand, right? That Correct. We're going to be putting that heavy of a roof on. How much more structural engineering goes into a home that has that type of roof versus one that just has the regular, asphalt type shingle? I mean,
It's not a lot of. It's additional. So we're typically going to go up a size in our rafter. We typically try to use 2x6s, sometimes 2x8s for our rafters. But if we're going to go to a tile, and so the code allows you to put those on 24-inch centers, and a lot of builders will put them on 24-inch centers. The rafters, regardless if we're doing asphalt shingles or tile. A tile we have to go a little tighter. But typically on asphalt shingles, we're going to do 2x6s on 24-inch centers, and then they'll do some bracing. But here in Texas, what we found out over the years and working in this area is if you ever drive down a neighborhood and you see like there's a ripple in the roof, like if it's a real long stretch of roof or flat area, that typically in the summers, a lot of times you can kind of see a little bit of a wave. And just the heat and the asphalt, the weight of all that, we've recommended, and on all of our drawings, we go to 16-inch on centers for all of our rafters, which adds a little additional cost, but it makes a much stiffer roof and gets rid of that. But if we're going to go to tile, clay tile or slate, normally we're going to go up a size, and we're going to stay on 16-inch centers. So we don't really change the quantity, but a lot of times we'll go up a rafter.
What is your personal, by design and look, what's your favorite type of roof? And then what is the most common type roofs you're seeing, and are metal roofs a thing? Like that. I know it's a lot of questions, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. So asphalt shingles are still predominantly, they control the market. Metal roofs are considerably more expensive. Like it depends on the house. So if it's a barn-dough looking house, I mean, obviously a metal roof is, maybe a 20% upgrade.
Yeah.
But if it's a cut-up home, like we see a lot in Texas, traditional or transitional, we have a lot of gables and roof changes. I mean, those roofs could sometimes even be over double the cost from asphalt to go to a steel.
But they last a long time.
They do, except for, you hear about hail damage, and we're obviously in a high hail area. There's a rider now that most insurance companies will put on, so they won't replace a metal roof if it doesn't leak. But it could get beat up by hail and look like
a golf ball.
Yeah, and look like somebody went out there with a ball-peen hammer and damaged it. But if it doesn't leak, the insurance companies are not going to replace it. But you can get an additional rider that a lot of people don't know about, and it's for cosmetic damage. And if there's so many dents in a certain area, they'll go ahead and replace the roof. But that's an additional cost.
Yeah, Michael Ranigan with Doc's Roofing was saying that I think we're in like the #1 area for hail. Yeah, which is, you would have never thought, but I guess when we had that huge hailstorm before, I saw a car drive by and like he had just got murdered, and it was no windows in it. The guy looked like he just went through a hailstorm himself. It was absolutely crazy. But
well, there was hailstorms in Wiley 3 or 4 years ago, and actually they totaled what we were doing as a design for an Allstate insurance agent, and he was talking about they totaled a couple of houses due to hail damage. Like hailstones went through the roof, through the second floor, and would land on the first floor.
It happened to my cousin. They live in Wiley. It was absolutely insanity. Yeah. So what's your favorite style of roof?
So I mean, I still like the asphalt shingles, but we've kind of, if our client's budget allows, we kind of recommend what they call an impact resistant shingle. So it's still a class 4 shingle. Which gets you the same insurance rating as a metal roof. So it'll reduce your insurance, but at substantially less cost than going to a metal roof.
Okay.
And you can get a lot of colors. You still get some texture and dimension to it. Probably one of my favorite styles of homes, though, are hill country style homes.
Okay.
And so that's got a lot of, we do have to add like metal over porches and some awnings, and I think that just goes with that style.
Yeah. So are you seeing stucco houses becoming popular in this area now? Because it seems like in some areas they're super popular, then all of a sudden there's just nothing.
In this area, again, back to our soil conditions, so we have really, really terrible soil where the house can shift and move. And doesn't necessarily, like, we design the foundations so that it's a little bit more rigid, but stucco is like drywall, so on the outside of your home, essentially.
Cracks and breaks,
So we still don't see a lot of stucco in this area, and builders are really especially if they've been in business a long time, they really shy away from it because they've had to repair it and go back and fix things. So contemporary-wise, homes, which we do a few. Our primary market is in the rural areas, so we don't do a ton of contemporary. We do some infill projects in town, but so those we see some stucco. But on the traditional homes, we don't really see a whole lot of stucco in our product.
Now you guys do barn-dominiums as well. You guys design those as well?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a super popular thing, but I've heard now that they're more expensive to build than a stick build, which people don't realize. Yeah,
they can be. So I grew up a farm and ranch, still passionate about agriculture. So barns and ag structures.
So you were actually born in a barn?
Yeah, no, not, but
I'm just kidding.
Probably not too far from it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm familiar with the way the structure works and why it's. Anyway, I explain this to most people when we do a design meeting, and people come in and ask, "Hey, we want to do a barn-dominium." The first thing I ask is why, because depending on the why, we might steer you going back to the traditional stick frame home. If it's purely on cost, then sometimes, a stick frame home is going to be less expensive today. Now, during COVID, when wood was outrageously expensive, we did a lot more barn-dominiums because steel was a little less and it was more cost effective. But typically, this is the way I explain it, is barn-dominiums are kind of built like an ag barn. So we have columns that are every 20 to 25 feet. And then they use horizontal, what we call C-channels or wall girts. And those are going to be spaced on 4-foot centers. And so for an ag building, you can build an 80 by 100 or 40 by 60 really economically because there's just not a lot of steel inside the building. But when we convert that to a home, now people want to add 10 windows, 4 doors, and the windows are different sizes. And so every time in a house, if you think a traditional frame home, we have a 2x4 stud every 16 inches. And so if you want to add a window, you actually go in and you remove a stud to put your window in. When a barn-dominium, you have a structural framing member every 20 to 25 feet. So if you want to add a window, now you're going back in and adding steel, which is
I
expensive.
didn't think about that.
And you're adding that for every opening that you have. So, and then we commonly will get, we want a barn dominium, but we don't want to look like a barn. Well, that's an immediately red flag.
Yeah.
Like, we can do those and we've done them, but they're typically going to be cost way out over a stick frame.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Every time because now you're asking a welder to cut pitches and cut gables and all those things, and that's just additional steel, additional welding, additional labor. Whereas framers can do that, with a saw in their hand and a hammer and
on the job site.
Yeah,
just
and
make
move
changes.
it.
Yeah.
But
So you guys obviously do a ton of plans, right? You guys, honestly, do you guys have a way for customers to view previous plans that you've done to kind of get inspiration for what you guys are doing and maybe be more cost effective for them to be like, oh, hey, this plan's already done. Can we just do that exact same house, make some small changes? I mean, I don't know if that's the thing.
I mean, so there comes into, some copyright issues with that. So we do have a plan search feature, and we typically do put the plans that we've worked on out on there. So definitely they can use it for inspiration. But we're not in the business of selling somebody else's plan. We're in the business of custom homes.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah.
So we expect that even if a customer found something that they kind of liked that we had done before, we're going to ask them, go through we have a six-page design questionnaire and ask, how you use your house, how are you going to bring your groceries in, where the kids are going to be, how many pets do you have, how are you going to function in this home? And so some of that is going to lead to, maybe a complete redesign or significant changes the way that maybe we originally designed the home for the customer, and that's what you're seeing versus the way you're going to live in your home.
Yeah.
And that's what you get with the custom home market or the custom home process is you get a lot of, feedback, questions.
Yeah.
Maybe we can steer you in a direction that might have worked for that homeowner, but based on what we're hearing from you, you're going to use your house differently. Let's rearrange this area and make it more functional for you.
Yeah. So here's a question I get asked all the time. It's crazy. What is the difference between custom home builders, right, and design versus, let's say, the big box builders who kick out a tons of stuff? My first response to them is it's obviously a much cheaper home that they are constructing versus a custom home builder. So if they're both $500,000 homes, let's just say your $500,000 home that you've designed and built custom will be a better quality home versus that big box builder at a $500,000 home. But they're like, well, they're giving incentives. They're giving me free upgrades. No, it's not free upgrades.
Yeah.
That $500,000 home is probably really a $380,000 home with you, but they've baked in all this ability to give you a cheaper rate or free window blind, or whatever it may be, and they don't realize. But that's what my thought process is. Are you in agreement with that, or what do you think?
I'm in complete agreement. I mean, the big box builders are building, let's just go to a D.R. Horton neighborhood or something. They may have 5 or 7 plans. They have engineered cost that thing down to the penny. They know exactly how much every one of them is going to cost, and they've designed it and sized it not for the homeowner's use or function. They've put some thought into that based on trends, but it's designed because of one thing in mind, and that's money, cost.
Yeah.
And so in the custom market, you're going to get usually higher end quality materials because D.R. Horton has a whole program and company based on, if you have something breaks or fixes, they have somebody that'll come out and fix it. And, that goes like that. But on a custom home build, I mean, usually it's the custom home builder, and maybe he has a superintendent, and they're going to be responsible for that house, and they're building relationships. So they're going to use higher quality materials. They want you to refer them to their friends. They're going to be back involved. They're spending more time on the job site.
Yeah. Cody's out on his job sites all the time. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's like, man, you are out there every week, and you can't tell me D.R. Horton, and I'm not trying to speak negatively about that. There's obviously a place for them. Yeah. But that superintendent on the job site that's running around, he's not really caring about the customer. He doesn't have that relationship with them. He's just throwing up houses and going. And these custom home builders like yourself, you guys are out there to ensure a quality product goes up because your name is tied to that. And if one house goes really sideways, I mean, it could be detrimental to your reputation, and you can't have that. I mean, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
So I try to really tell people that if you're going to spend a pretty penny on a home, if you can get away with custom building, go that route because it's going to be a home that is going to not only last a lot longer and look better for a longer period of time, but I think for resellability, like you're going to get a lot more money for that home because it was a custom home. It wasn't a DR. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, let's say University Park or whatever down there, these are a lot of custom built homes. They're older homes, but they were custom built homes. And that really entire community is much more expensive. Yes, location, but because of the homes, the quality that went into those. And if you're doing custom built homes, let's say in these areas, like the communities and things like that, that community is going to really appreciate so much more quickly than the DR Horton neighborhood and that type of thing. Just go through DFW and look at these different housing communities and you'll see what we're talking about. Custom built generally is the way to go. It is getting much more easier for borrowers to obtain financing because we do conventional loans with 5% down, FHA 3.5%, VA for 0 down up to $2 million. There are USDA, one-time closed construction loans. There is P&L loans, so people can get a P&L and get a one-time construction. So it's getting easier for borrowers to obtain financing. And I'm trying to push them that way because it is a better home for them, honestly. And it makes me look good because I'm working with good builders that are putting up good product. And 20 years from now, they're going to be like, hey, Rick got me into this house, you know what I'm saying? And, Tracy's Custom Homes, they did the same thing. Or Clark Custom Homes, they helped me out. It's just going to go so much further, I think.
We do get asked a lot, especially, young or first-time home buyers. So what is kind of I don't know, let's just say like you had a 700 credit score. What is an interest, or not interest, what is a amount down that typically a customer should be looking to put down?
So usually, first-time home buyers, and people think that if I'm a first-time home buyer that, I need to do an FHA loan, which is crazy, right? And they're like, well, it's a low down payment. It is a lot more restrictions, but with that being said, if you're building a custom home, it's not a problem either way, right? It's going to come down to the customer's particular situation as it pertains to credit, debt to income, all of those things. So again, FHA is 3.5 down. You're going to have that, plus you're going to have your closing costs and those types of things, which is, I like to say 2% of whatever the loan amount is for the house, just to kind of get a rough estimate.
Sure.
Conventional is 5% down. But with that being said, if we can do the land during that whole thing, if you already own the land, we can use the equity in that, go toward the down payment. We obviously lock the loans up front when we close, so it's a one-time close. So we closed in about 30 to 45 days. So if we got a contract with you 30 to 45 days, it's a quick turn time. You guys then do your construction. And then during construction, if rates drop, we lower the rate to the new lower rate. And we are expecting, hopefully, rates to drop this year. They keep saying they're going to do it. It hasn't happened yet, but Jesus, let's go. They'll drop rates. We'll lower it too. And then when you've finished, the construction of the home, it automatically turns to permanent financing. So there's no second close, which is amazing, right? Yeah. And construction, I think with you guys, for most builders as well, is 6 to 9 months, right? So at that point, we turn it and you go. So it's easy.
It's a great product.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people get scared. Not scared, but they're cautious about going the custom home route, that they think they have to have 20% down to go in that route, where they can go buy one in a neighborhood and maybe get in at, whatever specials they're offering. But it sounds like, y'all got products that will allow them to come in at 3.5%, 5%, or 10%.
And I think, unfortunately, they don't have down payment assistance programs for, custom built homes. But with that being said, I think that every buyer should look at doing a custom built home, even if it's a smaller tract, an acre or less or what have you, still look at that. I mean, have it as an option because it may work out better that way. And again, buying land is the way to go. So even if you're renting right now, I'd buy a plot of land if you can afford it to build on it later. And if you don't, it's a great investment because land, there's only so much of it.
Right.
And it keeps going up in price. I bought a home in Cattle Mills, and 10, 15 years ago, that was a nothing town. It was super small, and it is literally blowing up. And if you bought land 20 years ago, you just made a huge return on your investment, right?
For sure.
And that's going to keep expanding, especially since people can work remote more and more. They're getting fiber. They finally got fiber at my house. You would not believe. It's a huge improvement. But you're going to see people start moving more and more out. And, generally speaking, people don't want to be but 45 minutes from their place of employment. So you're going to see companies like your company, Farmersville, moving more out, and people will keep moving from there. So they'll go more rural and then travel to Greenville or Cattle Mills or Rockwall or what have you, doing custom built homes. I mean, that's
Oh,
the
for
way to
sure.
go. Yeah.
You touched on fiber and just reminded me that today, I mean, so we follow like the different generations and what they're expecting in homes. But used to, you know, if you moved into a neighborhood, you typically got electric, you got gas, you got sewer, and you know that was it. Maybe you got cable TV, and then all of a sudden, you know, cable TV wasn't really available. Maybe you got DSL internet, and you still had a landlines. I can't remember the last plan we drew where we put a landline, you know, a phone jack into the house. But now there was a neighborhood that was built probably 2 to 3 years ago in this area, and a bunch of homeowners moved in. They just opened. It was kind of a tract home building, and all of a sudden they got a lot of pushback. Like, hey, there's no fiber, there's no internet in the homes. It wasn't available. Like you had to get rooftop antennas, and it was just a thing. Like the developer, whoever was helping the developer develop that area, didn't let them know that today's generation expects to move in with high-speed internet. Like wherever they go, they're expecting. It's not an upgrade. It's an expectation, which is a change in the culture.
But for you, you're going to all of these trade shows to ensure that you are literally on the cusp of the technology and what's new and what's up and coming, those types of things, and you're implementing those into your plans, or at least educating your customers that, hey, these are what is available now, and this is what's up and coming, and maybe you guys should consider that. Did you know that was a thing? Like I learned that, I didn't even know this was a thing, but column refrigeration. So they're doing the range in the middle and column refrigeration on the side. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'm like, that's genius. Instead of walking halfway across the kitchen to the refrigerator, it's right there. Now, obviously, it's more expensive, but in these upper end homes, like, you're going to want that, and that's genius. And they make them look like cabinetry. So come on now.
Panel ready. I mean, that's where we get into the 150 a foot to 300 a foot to 600 or 700 a foot. I mean, depending on the things you choose. But yeah, there are so many products out there. And we go to the National Home Builder Show. There's I think they estimate about 110 to 120,000 people were at the show this year. Wow. But I mean, products. You can walk the showroom floor for 2 days and probably not see exactly everything. But yeah, the amazing amount of products. Like if you've kind of thought in your head this would be cool, there probably is a manufacturer out there that's got a product like that.
Now you were saying the 3D rendering of the home, right? How much do plans cost, and is that included in the plan cost?
Yeah, so when we draw a set of plans, I mean, a lot of architects in the area, designers still use a program called AutoCAD, which is just using lines, and it's what we call 2D. So it's like drawing on paper. We use a program that's called Chief Architect, and it draws in 3D. So when we draw a wall, it's not drawing.
You have to wear the glasses and everything?
No. We don't have to draw 2 lines to indicate a wall. We draw 1, but it's got it tells us it's got 2x4, 2x6 studs, what the insulation value is, what's the material, the texture, the brick, the siding. Like we pick all of that when we draw that one line to make a wall. So anyway, it makes it easier, and so when we don't charge for 3D renderings. It's just part of our process.
Yeah.
And our design team, that's probably what they enjoy the most, is working with the homeowner and then getting to design a really cool 3D model of the house, and then we build the construction drawings off the model.
Yeah.
So that way we check for interferences, we can take cross sections anywhere we want through the model, and check to see, hey, are the stairs going to interfere with the roof? Do we need to move something over? Is there a wall upstairs that doesn't align with the second floor or first floor? But yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Where others, that are drawing in 2D, they have to send it off or have somebody on the team that then takes that and converts it into a 3D rendering.
What's the typical plan cost, though?
For us, it ranges anywhere from $1.25 to $1.50 a square foot. I mean, there's occasions where we've gone up to $1.60 a square foot if it's got a lot of detail and built-ins and trim work and
all that
a lot
stuff.
of things that are going to take more time. And that's so $1.25 to $1.50 a square foot. And that's area under roof. So anything that we're designing, if it's a porch, if it's a garage, second floor, we don't charge for attic space. But I mean, if we're going to build a second floor or bonus room, we're going to include that space as well as the foundation. Now for barn doors, if it's a simple barn door, we try to help our customers out, especially if they're doing it for a budget. Sometimes we'll do those for $1 a square foot.
Okay. Now, do you guys help design shops, like metal shops and stuff as well, or?
We do. But for us to touch any project, I mean, there's just an overhead cost of us opening a project, assigning a designer. So, maybe it only takes a few hours to do a shop building. If it's just going to be a basic shop building, then, but we still have a minimum we have to charge, to compensate that. But we do a lot of shop buildings that start off as a simple shop, and then it's all of a sudden now it's got a bathroom, and oh, while we're at it, let's put a little kitchenette and wait.
I would love that. I'd never leave.
Yeah, and the kids might not come back from or they might, not. They may come back after college, boomerang kids.
Yeah.
So maybe we should put a little bedroom in there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's grown, and let's put an outdoor porch and an outdoor kitchen, and while we're at it,
let's put
grandma
out there.
Fireplace in. Yeah. So these little, shop outdoor buildings can end up being pretty extravagant on the design side, which obviously end up being.
Now, how many people do you guys have on staff here?
So there's currently we have 4 designers. And myself would be 5. Making a decision on adding a 5th one here.
Yeah.
We typically always have a summer intern. So this summer we have a local student who's studying at Texas A&M. She'll be finishing her sophomore year.
It's like a cult, isn't it?
I personally enjoy hiring from Texas A&M. It gives me opportunity to go back. But Sabrina is going to be coming back. So she's from Farmersville, graduated high school here.
Okay.
She interned with us last summer after her freshman year in college, and she's coming back for her sophomore year. So she'll be helping us on the design side. And then we have Sonny, who obviously runs the company and is face of the company and handles everything up front. And then we have Danita, who works part-time for us, and she handles our social media.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then we have Billy. He's a superintendent, and he does everything on the job. So
nice.
For building, which we only build a few houses, and then we say they have to be within 10 miles of our office. But he handles all the construction.
But I think it's good too, though, for you guys to be in the custom build process as well, doing your own homes, so that you guys can exercise what you're putting out as well. You're doing these plans, you're doing these designs, and being out there actually putting the home together yourselves helps you understand better. I can say all day I do, these types of loans, but if I'm not actually doing those types of loans, I can say that all day long, but I don't have no clue what I'm doing. I have to literally get in there and do them, to make sure and that's what I'm saying. I think it's just great that you guys do it. Obviously, your competition to some degree to some of the home builders, but they know that it's so small.
We are never a competition, and we make that a point to all, because we have about 26 different custom home builders we work with throughout the area. So we cover Lake Texoma, Sherman, Denison area, all the way south to Terrell, and we got builders out in Sulphur Springs. And our primary area is rural areas. We will never bid on a job. Somebody comes in with a customer. We treat that customer as this is your builder, and that's the only way it's going.
Perfect.
We will never. The customers that we build a lot of times come in, and they have to be within a short radius of our office, and they haven't chosen a builder or haven't visited with anybody. And if everything goes well during the design phase, we'll entertain building it. But it gives, back to when I started, I learned so much on the job that every house we build, I find something unique, and we'll come back in as a design team, like, hey, this caused an issue, or this worked out really well, let's do this in the future, or hey, we've been using 3 foot wide for this section, let's use 3'3" next time. And so a lot of the design team is young, and they're great designers, but you hear it a lot, like they don't have any, building knowledge. And so we're able to go out to a job site, walk jobs, and walk through and say, hey, this happened here, this happened there, let's avoid that, or this worked out great. Like, we really like the flow of this tray ceiling. Let's make sure we try to implement that on the future designs.
But that's what makes you more superior than those online shops where you can just buy plans.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they should be doing this every freaking time. I don't know. I just think custom built homes are the way to go. I mean, honestly, and even on my street, a lot of custom built homes, and Cody's building another home on my street, and they're just amazing looking. They're just so different. I hate driving down a neighborhood, and you can literally see, it's like every 5th house is the same house. It's a different color. I'm like, really?
Or they flipped it or changed material or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have 2 interior designers in the office.
Oh, do you really?
I mean, they're part of our full design team as part of the 5, but their backgrounds are interior design, so they're great at like colors and palettes, and that's another service we offer for custom home builders if they're not working with an interior designer. As a builder, so my background's in engineering and colors and picking what goes well together, I can kind of do.
So you definitely didn't do that.
No, So, but they're fantastic. And as a builder, I hated when I had a customer and we got down to, hey, I need your paint colors. And they're like, I can't decide. And it was just frustrating. And, what do we need for faucets? What color do you want? Can you pick one out? And they're like, I can't decide. So now we have 2 interior designers that when we build, They're obviously involved and they pick all the materials. They love it. They go shopping. They bring in all the samples and like, this is what we want to use here, here, and here.
You might have 100 applications after this.
Yeah. So,
women are like, we love the shop.
Yeah. So builders, that don't have an interior designer, because there's a lot of custom home builders that are a one-man show or maybe a two-man show. We offer that service in addition. So
Man,
if they want to come in and have, if they have a set of, they have a client, got a set of drawings and they need some help. Hey, can you just help our customers get all the materials picked out?
Yeah.
They're great at that. So
that's awesome, man. Well.